Well, I was watching these little birds fly into a fir tree across the road, and every time a bird flew into the tree, a little puff of yellow stuff puffed out.
Yeah,
I know.
Morning,
Here we go.
directors, staff. Welcome to the Comox Strathcona Waste Management Board meeting for Thursday, April 22nd. And I'll go to the agenda, call to order, approval of the agenda, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Go. Sure. Any additions? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, carried. Item B, in-camera meeting, recommendation that the committee adjourn into in-camera section pursuant to Gil, seconder.
second.
Anyone opposed? See none, carried. Item C, adoption of the minutes.
Second.
Go. Any errors, omissions? Hearing none, anyone opposed? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? We have no petition of delegations. Under reports, item 1, Comox Strathcona Waste Management Advisory Committee. Motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Move receipt.
Seconder. And CEO.
Thank you, Chair and Directors. On the advisory, I think we're on. If you have any questions or comments, we're available to answer them. Otherwise, nothing to report at this time.
Are there any questions?
Well, I have a question. It's Director Lee. The minutes of this committee contained an in-camera matter, which I believe we're going to be discussing in camera today. So now if this is received in open, they're not in, the topic isn't in camera.
We're in camera. Director Lee, we're in camera now.
We are, okay.
Oh, sorry, we're open.
That's what I thought. Like the minutes of the advisory committee contain an in-camera matter
Okay,
that will be today.
I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. I'll just ask Jake Martins to explain here. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell, and through the chair. Yeah, the advisory minutes currently contain a matter that is, as Director Lee has noted, is an in-camera matter. Those should be reflected in camera advisory minutes. So with the board support, those will be addressed immediately following.
Gil? Are any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed?
I had my hand.
Sorry, Director Colburn.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Just the last item on the minutes. I'm just wondering about if there is any timeline for when we will see any infrastructure plans for the smaller communities and their organics diversion, as we aren't really a part yet of the other organics diversion project.
I'll go to CEO.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'll just ask Vivian Shaw to come forward and maybe answer the question with respect to the outreach and things that we're doing for the smaller communities or what may be planned in the future.
Thank you, Russell. Through the chair, we are looking at opportunities to be able to integrate the smaller communities through trial composting programs, but we're also going to be looking at opportunities for just collection of materials at the waste transfer facilities as part of this. Once we actually continue with the full rollout of the program, to be able to identify those opportunities to be able to integrate these smaller communities. So that will be coming in the coming years.
Anything to add, Director Colburn?
No, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? See none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 3.
I'll move the Comox Strathcona Solid Waste Advanced Technology Select Committee minutes be received.
Second.
Thank you. Call questions. Anyone opposed? All carried. Item 3, Ocean Legacy Foundation, Ocean Plastics Depot Status Report. Motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Thank you. And I'll go to the CAO.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors, and Stephanie Valdell is here online to present this report and answer any of your questions.
Is there any questions? Oh, sorry.
Hello, through the CAO to the chair and board, good morning and happy Earth Day. I'm pleased to present this information to you today. The Ocean Legacy Foundation is an internationally recognized nonprofit based out of Delta with an epic approach to managing aquaculture debris that is washing up on shores of coastal communities. EPIC is a 4-pillar approach: education and research, policy and advocacy, infrastructure development, and cleanup restoration. The Ocean Legacy Foundation has worked with DFO to establish ocean plastics recycling depots in BC. There's currently 1 in Tofino and 1 in Powell River. The Ocean Legacy Foundation depot capital infrastructure comes from the DFO and province, with loading and transportation costs covered by the respective regional districts. Tipping fees for the materials are covered through the provincial funding. The materials are collected and sorted by volunteers, and items like oyster baskets are turned into black plastic containers for brands like Lush Cosmetics. Ocean Legacy Foundation works with government agencies on policy to ensure aquaculture materials are managed responsibly moving forward and don't end up in the environment to begin with. Currently, the CSWM service manages ocean plastics collected by volunteers through the CSWM tipping fee waiver policy. Since 2016, over 180 tons, approximately 36 tons annually, of aquaculture debris and derelict vessels have been collected and landfilled within the service. Each year, this volume increases. The Ocean Legacy Foundation has requested support from the CSWM board to arrange for capital infrastructure funding from the province in order to establish an ocean plastics recycling depot in Cumberland. Staff are estimating the loading and transport costs to manage 160 tons annually would be $27,000. This program will, however, save the service from waiving fees for this material and will save valuable airspace, particularly related to the large foam blocks, which weigh as little as 10 kilos, but can be about 1 cubic meter in size. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Director Cornfield, Abram, and Arbor. So Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, I thought this was great to see this on the report. It's something we've followed for a number of years. Little concerned when it comes to the statement about aquaculture debris. And so what is included currently, the fish farm section of aquaculture is under attack for all kinds of things. But I know that debris is also comes from commercial fishing, which is a big problem, especially with nets and rope and floats, as well as sport fishing. So I guess I'm a little sensitive on the when it's talked aquaculture, but it avoids some of the major ones, which is commercial fishing as well. So maybe perhaps we can just be a little more cautious on our words, but a great program, and I'm glad to see it's slated to come here.
Okay. Director Abram.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody. Yeah, and Charlie, maybe you could be a little more careful on your words about aquaculture being under attack, the fish farm industry under attack. They're actually being examined. The amount of debris that comes off of our beaches in Area C every year is phenomenal. And I'm sure Stephanie would attest to that. We're talking dump truck loads that the CVRT has been waiving fees for for years at our beach cleanups. And guess what? Most of the debris that we're cleaning up is from the aquaculture industry. Sure, there's some ropes in there. There's a bit of net here and there, but it's mostly oyster trays and all kinds of styrofoam floats and, on and on and on and on. And most of that relates to some sort of infrastructure that either floats or is attached to the land that breaks loose or gets tossed or whatever. The oyster baskets, they break and then they just disappear into the water. So this project, as far as I'm concerned, is just absolutely phenomenal. And I hope we'll go forward with the recommendation. And I would like to, give a very, very special applause to Stephanie for the amount of work that she's put into this and into a huge project that's coming up on Quadra Island for collection, to put it into dumpsters and take it away. Big, I should say, containers. They're giant. And in addition to that, Stephanie has been participating on a regular basis at what we call ICAN, ICAN, and it is basically dealing with all the sustainability issues in Area C and around Area C. So it's wonderful to have a CBRD staff member there to give us, factual information, to give the community factual information, and it doesn't all get left up to me to make it up. So it's great. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for being there, and you deserve a round of applause from the board for your work.
Thank you, Director Abram.
Thank you.
And I have Director Arbor.
We're at distance, so I'll take my mask off so we can hear a little bit better. Yeah, I'm also fully in support of us proceeding with this initiative. There's a couple of places where I'm involved in this. One is I've got some further good news to report, perhaps that will be interested to this board. So I'm the AVICC and UBCM representative to the Shellfish and Management Advisory Committee of DFO on aquaculture, and we've done a lot of work in the last 2 years on this very issue, and in years past as well. But I think the industry has really taken to heart trying to improve, at least on the shellfish aquaculture side. And we're also doing work. I'm the chair of the Bain Sound Ecosystem Forum, and there as well, there's a multi-stakeholder exercise and collaboration that's happening. And there's also been a subgroup that has looked at this issue. So next week, the DFO will come in and introduce their new conditions of license for shellfish aquaculture to the Comox Valley Regional District, and even for the folks from Strathcona. I definitely invite you to pay attention to that one. One of the things that they will discuss is the introduction of actually labeling of all the trays. It will now be part of conditions of license that the companies have their labels and such on all of their pieces of equipment. So over time, I think when questions arise around having sort of a free program to deal with those debris, I think we will see more transparent and clear ways to deal with that in the future, and a better partnership with industry to address it. So very exciting, and I'm very pleased that indeed, as Dr. Abram said, that the staff of the CBRD took this on, and I think it will fit really well with our philosophy to recover and deal with our waste from all sorts at our facility. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have Director Hamir and then Davis. Director Hamir.
Thanks, Chair. And I also want to put my 2 cents in supporting this, that we proceed on this. I love the fact that that DFO is going to be kicking in some funding for this. But I guess a question to Stephanie. do you perceive if we do go ahead and we set up this depot here at the Cumberland site, that volumes might increase as more awareness is there, or do you see a fairly stable volume of material entering? That's kind of question one. And my second question is just, there were some questions in our staff report around funding for transportation costs. And I don't know if you were able to see that. If you could clarify the funding that would be coming from DFO, is that only for disposal, or is other funding available to cover the cost of moving product here?
So to answer your first question, as the attention to ocean plastics gains momentum, there may be more volunteers cleaning the beaches within our service. So the volumes may slightly increase. They generally are increasing over time just because we have more people involved in the cleanups. It's difficult to gauge. I know the Department of Fisheries and Oceans just recently did a large cleanup of abandoned aquaculture leases on the west coast of Vancouver Island. So as more funding becomes available to the DFO, we will see more material coming online. And so we should be prepared to manage that. And that's why we went with the 160 tons for the budget. And then to answer your second question, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans funding at this time is uncertain. Currently, there is funding available for the transportation costs, but not for the loading costs. And so just to err on the side of caution, we have put funding aside to manage the transportation, just in case it is not available through the DFO.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything else, Director Hamir? It's all good. Okay, Director Davis.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Stephanie. On behalf, your organization's work is wonderful. I'm glad this is happening. I just have a couple of questions. I'm wondering how much coverage you get every year in terms of cleanup on the West Coast, and I'm also wondering if you track the waste sources, and because what I'm seeing is a bit of an international issue. Like, I have hiked the West Coast Trail on Nook Island, and what I saw was about 50% of the waste seemed to be coming from Southeast Asia, and I was just basing that on the printing on a lot of the garbage, everything from drinking water bottles to biohazard waste. And I was just wondering if you collect statistics on that sort of thing. Thanks.
So as we do track some statistics, as far as coverage for cleanups on the West Coast, it is very volunteer based. As I mentioned, we have seen the DFO lead the charge for a cleanup, but it is primarily concerned residents who are collecting this material and then transporting it or arranging for the transportation to landfill. And for the second part of the question, we do, as a service, take particular interest in a lot of photographs. So, and our volunteers are really excellent at posting their successes on social media. So as far as tracking the material, that's where we get a lot of the information from. Specific to the Quadra cleanup, the volunteers are phenomenal. So we do have a lot of photography evidence as to allocate what is foam blocks versus ropes. And so that really comes in handy. But I have seen a significant amount of waste on the West Coast related to plastic water bottles and floats. It's not so much the oyster baskets. So the material does differ depending on the region, but a lot of it is ocean plastic, aquaculture, or fishing industry related.
Anything else, Director Davis?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Director Adams.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the presenter. I totally support this initiative, but I wanted to just touch on the comments from Director Arbor. That really good news to see that they're going to be doing some tracking of where the waste is coming from and maybe hold those responsible. It also may address some of the broad brush statements against some of those that are actually being proactive in trying to limit the amount of impact to the environment. So that's great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other first-time speakers? If not, I'll go to Director Cornfield. I don't see any come up. Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions. Has there been any outreach to industry or forming a partnership? And should industry not play a role in it if the majority of plastics comes, say, from the shellfish aquaculture or commercial fishing or what have you? Should they not be playing a role, and have we reached out to them to participate as partners?
So currently the Ocean Legacy Foundation has taken on that role, and essentially it's an advocacy role on behalf of the communities, and they do work with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans as well as the industry. So here in the Comox Valley, we have seen the industry really step up, and they actually have a bin located at Goose Spit and make arrangements to collect and transport particularly the oyster baskets back to their facility in south of Courtney. And so the industry, they are quite heavily involved, but more so in discussions with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans in how to prevent this material from escaping. So the material in essence is branded ghost gear because it really is unidentifiable as to where it's coming from specifically. And so what the DFO is trying to do is ensure that all the material is branded so that if there's a particular business where the material is becoming loose into the environment, we can then have some accountability.
Yeah, I was just meaning, what have we played? Because should provincial funding dry up, we're responsible for the transportation fees, which could be up to 24,000 a year, I think, in terms of what's there. And I was wondering if we had approached any of the industrial companies for support in the transport. Second question I have is, I think it's good we get one depot down in the valley at Cumberland. We have a lot of marine debris up this way, whether be it on the west coast portion of the Strathcona Regional District or whether it's in the east coast. Would it then have staff considered a depot at the transfer station in Campbell River? Because our landfill closes, there's going to be a transfer station for other materials. Are we looking at potentially putting a transfer station here so that it can be bulk shipped from here, as opposed to taking stuff from Quadra Island and having to transport it down to Cumberland?
Mr. Chair, I'll just ask Vivian Shaw to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Through the chair. The location that has been identified for this depot, it was based on accessibility and also the facility size, which is something that we are able to accommodate at the Comox Valley Transfer Station, the Comox Valley Waste Management Center, especially once we are able to remove the pilot project, our compost pilot project, and address the mattress issues that we have on site. We'll be able to actually site that depot there. In regards to your question about siting it at the Campbell River location, the facility is already quite congested as it is, and it is not suitable for a depot of this size. So at this time, we're going to
I didn't mean setting up this one. I was talking about an additional site for deposits so that material coming in from Tassus could stop at Gold River and pick up and then deposit in Campbell River with a lot of their other, can be, they already move material from there to Campbell River. If we added on a separate trailer or bin to bring in the marine plastics, it would make sense then and only have one vehicle or one piece of equipment coming in instead of one going all the way down to the to Cumberland with just plastics. So was just a thought, but I guess short answer is no. I wasn't suggesting that Cumberland not be the spot. What I was suggesting was mainly a drop off at our transfer station.
Okay, thank you, Director Harfield. I don't see any further questions. So.
Chair, sorry, just one question
sorry.
for me. Question to staff or maybe to Stephanie. How soon would this start if the board does approve this this recommendation?
So just due to the timing for development permits, the soonest this could occur is in 2022. And it is still contingent on funding from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, which will be under negotiation.
Anything to add, Director Amir? Hearing none then. I don't see any further questions. So on receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? See none carried, and on to recommendation.
Move the
Move the
recommendation.
recommendation.
Thank you. And we got a
Abrams.
first and we got a seconder. Thank you. Any further discussion? Call question on recommendations. Anyone opposed? Seeing none carried. Item 4, Regional Organics Compost Project Update. Motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. And the CAO.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors, and Vivian Shaw and Christian Weil will provide an update for you with respect to the organics project.
Thank you, Russell. Through the chair and to the board. So this report here is to provide an update on the regional organics project. So since the last update, much work has been done to advance this project forward. And as you can see in the timeline on the first page of the report, we're well on track for the phased-in collection of organics starting next fall. And some of the most notable achievements, milestones that we've achieved since the November update are as follows. The phase 2 consultation has now been complete, which included extensive information around the preliminary site designs, mitigation efforts, and how the phase 1 public consultation has informed the facility design. Christiane, the manager of external communications, will be providing more information on this in greater detail following my synopsis. Secondly, the targeted amendment submissions has been submitted to the MOE on March 18th, and we've confirmed that the submission has been received and conveyed the urgency of this request. And we are currently working through the 90% detailed design for the facilities, and that is currently well underway. And lastly, the development permits for both the facilities have been submitted, and we're working closely with staff at the respective municipalities to advance these in a timely fashion. And we're aiming for to issue the RFP for construction this summer. And so the next steps for this project will be the submission of the OMAR operating permit, and again, the issuance of the RFP for construction. And that concludes my part of it. And I think we'll be moving on to Christiane's presentation for the phase 2 consultation update.
Excellent, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Through the chair, if I can just check in and make sure that everybody is able to hear me in the civic room.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great, thank you. First slide, please, Lisa. In March, we launched an engagement campaign to share the preliminary design for the compost facility and transfer station, as Vivian mentioned. And our main goal there was to report back on how previous public input had informed the facility design and addressed community concerns. We held 3 virtual sessions via Zoom offered to the community in order to comply with provincial health guidelines. And our structure was a presentation about the project, and followed by a walkthrough of the compost facility design and a moderated Q&A. And to support these sessions, a design summary document was developed and shared as part of the engagement strategy. Next slide, please. There were 71 participants in total, including 2 people who attended all 3 sessions. And this was a member of the Campbell River Environmental Committee and a neighbor who also identified as a member of CREC. Our other attendees included residents, business representatives, and staff from various local governments. And we had participants come from across the region, with the majority from Courtenay, Campbell River, and the CBRD rural areas. And most of our attendees indicated that they had heard about the session through Facebook or via direct invitation from the CSWM. Next slide, please. The majority of attendees were there to learn more about the service and the facility overall, including what types of food scraps would be collected and operational details such as how the organics would be transported and public access to the end product in the facility. Whereas the questions posed by neighbors focused on more localized topics like tree removal, odor, soil, water quality, and fire suppression. CREC representatives raised specific concerns around health and environmental risks, odor management, and distance to the nearest property, as well as safety and best practices. And CREC also offered up research and provided links to several reports that they felt were relevant during those meetings. And so our staff scheduled a follow-up meeting the next week to address those concerns that were raised. And transcripts from all of those meetings can be found in the appendices of the What We Heard report connected to your staff report, and videos of the public webinars are also posted online for reference. Next slide, please. So we'll now report back to the community with these results in order to close the consultation loop, and our final report will be submitted to the province and to support the amendment to the Solid Waste Management Plan and OMAR permitting. And I'd be pleased to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. And I'm Director Adams.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the update. Certainly an exciting project, but running through your timeline chart of activities, I just want to reach out and say if there's anything that we can do with the City of Campbell River to assist in the development permit process, please let us know and we'll help try to expedite that through the process. But also when we get to the Ministry of Environment for the operating permits, if there's advocacy that you're looking for, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Adams. And Director Morin.
Sorry, my mute button wasn't working there. Thank you so much for the report. I was just really impressed with how well it was laid out, how easy it was to follow, and I really liked the Q&A piece where you took every single question and answered. And I think when closing the loop back to the public, that will be really, really relevant to show how this consultation has been, I think, really attentive to the public and their questions and concerns. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And Director Cole-Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharon. Thanks so much for this report. This was really helpful to get a sense of the public's perception and interest in the project. One of the things I find that's come up most frequently when I receive public inquiries has been about the multifamily sector and when that might come online. I realize that's not something that will happen initially, and it's something which the pickup in multifamily is done by each municipality. So it's something municipalities have to be working on. I'm just wondering at this point what we might bring back to the City of Courtenay, if there's any work we can be doing to ensure that we are as ready as possible when the facility is in a position to accept multifamily collection of organics.
As we have originally indicated, this project will be geared more towards single-family homes for the initial onset of this service commencement. But as we work through the operational kinks, we'll be able to better understand what our capacity availability will be for the ICI sector. We will be working alongside with the municipalities on the multifamily component, which is a big part of our solid waste management plan, or sorry, an outstanding item on our solid waste management plan. So it is something that is on the radar and top of mind for sure. So we will be working with the respective staff to advance that forward in the coming years.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Is there any other questions on the presentation?
Mr. Chair, it's Director Lee. I wanted to make a comment that I'm glad to read that the building will be owned and operated by our CSWM service, and it won't be a P3. The commencement of the project, it was proposed this was going to be a P3, and I think that we'll have more control as we see how it rolls out, and if it's successful or not. We can make decisions about whether to keep going with it or not, if it's under our control. So I'm glad to see that in there.
CEO?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to provide some clarity. It will be a design bid build process to construct the facility, which will be owned by the regional district or solid waste service, but it will be operated by an independent contractor, and that will go out for tender upon completion of construction.
Thank you. Any further questions on the presentation? Seeing none, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item number 5, construction demolition waste management. Motion receive report.
Second.
And the CL.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. And Sarah Willie is with us today, and will provide a presentation of this report and answer any of your questions.
Thank you to the Chair through the CAO. Very much appreciate being able to bring this report forward to the board. Staff are quite excited about the opportunity to be advancing one of the major objectives within our solid waste management plan from 2012. And that is the further diversion of construction demolition waste and movement towards our goal of 75% diversion. For this report, we recognize that it did come in a little bit late, and we apologize for that. This report was in response to an April 8th SWAT meeting where some of the advanced policy and approaches were brought forward and discussed. And we certainly wanted to bring a more robust conversation to this topic as it is a very multifaceted topic. And so this is really just a starting point for directors to provide a baseline of information that will allow for a robust conversation to occur in June. So construction demolition waste will be one of the topics at the roundtable discussions that are going to happen with the board and staff in June. And so we wanted to afford you this opportunity to take in sort of a status quo of where we are right now, some of the initiatives we've been moving forward with, and give you a bit of a sneak peek at where some of the other communities have started to move. Certainly this is an area that has gone beyond just banning certain materials, and it's a complex issue with policy tools and financial tools that are impactful at the construction of new builds or renovations, at the decision to demolish or take down a building, from the haulers who bring the material and where they take the material to, and the options that they have for bringing those materials. As well, very integrated with the markets and the ability to actually properly recycle those materials and have the confidence that those materials are moving to a facility that we believe is doing the right thing. Because it is so integrated with the with the building and planning departments, it's not something that can be done in isolation by the CSWM. And so another one of our main stakeholders in this conversation as we go forward will be our municipal partners. So we look forward to working with those municipal partners and their planning departments and their building departments to move some of these initiatives forward as we go. So as a high level, construction demolition waste is about 17% of our waste stream. Of that, we estimate there is about 6,200 tons that we feel is either readily recyclable or has emerging markets that we could address through some of these policy ideas. We do have significant efforts for construction demolition diversion already, both at our own waste management facilities and through our private partners. And we don't want to ignore those efforts that are already in place. The diversion of materials like clean wood waste will also reduce the methane that's being generated in our landfills, as well as save significant airspace. So we did want to highlight some of those existing diversion opportunities. We do have some materials that we've created that are available. We've started the conversation. We do have some tipping fee incentives that are there for folks to sort that clean wood waste, to separate their scrap metal, and to separate their clean recyclables like cardboard. But there's more steps that we can go forward with, such as, you know, more tools within our tipping fees, and those need some evaluation in order to understand the financial impacts. We need to work with private sectors to develop those emerging markets and make sure that if we're asking people to segregate these materials, they have somewhere to take them and that those materials can be properly managed. We also need to recognize that there's a lot of education and learning that needs to be done by the industry in order for them to be able to be supported through this shift to meet our common goals. And so there's a lot of great tools out there, toolkits that have been developed for contractors and builders. And financial incentives, because, you know, those are really money talks, and we appreciate that, you know, the industry has some tight margins, and so we want to support them with those efforts that they're going to make to help us, again, reach those common goals. So lots of conversation happening here on Vancouver Island through the Coast Waste Management Association. There's a construction demolition working group. Zero Waste Victoria is leading that with that association, and it's a multi-sector conversation. So certainly looking forward to more discussions, but happy to take any questions at this time.
Great, thank you very much. I've got Director Grieve.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Sarah, for taking this on. This isn't new. I remember a presentation over 10 years ago on deconstruction as opposed to demolition. And I think the NIMO's been doing this for 15 years at least. I know friends that when building houses used to go down to Nanaimo and pick up clear 2x12 Doug fir from the old houses from the coal mining days in Nanaimo. And it's better lumber than you get today. And of course, anybody has any association with the building supply industry, and I worked in it for 28 years, you'll realize that right now building materials are ridiculously expensive. I think they're 27% higher than they were 18 months ago. So it only makes sense to have a crew go in and deconstruct a house. It also adds to employment and gives people experience. I would say that we're not on the leading edge at all. We're on the tail end of this conversation. And my only question is, why did it take us so long?
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grieve. I appreciate that. I'm very excited as well to be moving forward with this. I think this particular waste service has had a lot of priorities over the last few years that just haven't allowed us to have the capacity or the bandwidth to address this. Certainly Nanaimo has brought forward construction demolition bans from their landfill with pressure with airspace, and they've been able to facilitate the private sector in meeting the needs of residents, and reuse of those old timbers is absolutely a good incentive, those prices for sure. Some of these complex permitting processes are not in place just yet across the province. So I don't think we're too far behind if we go all the way. And I'm looking forward to bringing that comprehensive approach forward.
Thank you very much.
Yep, and Director McCallum.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much, Sarah, for this report. I'm also very happy to see this initiative moving forward. I do see it as a huge opportunity in terms of waste diversion, and I look forward to seeing where the conversation goes in the next couple of months. I just had one question about Table 1 in the report. The way I'm reading it, it appears that we're having much more success with diversion in the Campbell River area than in the Comox Valley area. And I'm just wondering if you have any insights as to why we seem to be having more success in one region of the service than another.
Yeah, if you're looking at the percentage of C&D diverted at 62% versus 32%, it's really just a result of the overall diversion number at that location. There is a difference between the two regions overall in terms of construction demolition waste. And I think that a big driver for that is those private facilities that exist just in close proximity to our Campbell River Waste Management Center. And so those are some of our stakeholders moving forward, like the Uplands landfill and the Allen Sons facility as well. And of course, Pacific Wood Waste is a big partner within our region in both facilities. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
And Director Moore.
Great, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was very impressed to see this come forward. I was part of circular economy workshop this week, which I'm sure some others were as well as part of Earth Week. And there's some really neat things happening with startup businesses. And of course, this is one of them, that businesses that go in and deconstruct and use virtually, everything except things that are really toxic. And I just see some real synergies possible with nonprofits and social enterprise as well. I mean, we know that Habitat for Humanity already, does some level of this with Restore, but I think that it could all tie together really well and benefit so many other areas of the community and also help with economic development. So I'm hoping that maybe we can look at those kind of opportunities. And I don't know if maybe you have a comment on that. And I guess just I think what Director Greaves says is true. I mean, many construction folks have done this over the years, but I guess what I see different now is almost more of this formalization or taking it more seriously with the environmental movement and just, I think, more momentum now than maybe in the past. I mean, I live with a salvager, so much of my house was salvaged from things that could be reused. So I think that it's a value that many hold, and I'm really happy to see it go forward. And maybe if you're able to answer the question whether there are some opportunities for collaboration with nonprofits or startup businesses, social enterprise, that kind of thing, or if you have any examples of that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Director Moran. Absolutely, Habitat for Humanity is a great partner within our community already in diverting a lot of those materials from homes. I think where the next step would be is in that building materials, the wood that comes out and finding homes for that and making that convenient for people to be able to reuse. And some of those initiatives have been making great headway in some other communities. So certainly including them in our discussion in June was a priority for sure for me in seeing where they can take their organization with these expansion opportunities possible. In terms of social enterprise, certainly the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, it's a slightly different approach in that they're doing construction demolition sorting at their site, run by a contractor, but staffed by a nonprofit, helping people recover from mental illness and get back into the workforce. Certainly that's one great example. In terms of staffing of the resale facilities. Certainly, yeah, some of that labor that can be, denailing or things like that. Those can be great opportunities. So looking for some of those social enterprise aspects is a great thing to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And next on the list is Director Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to add my perspective on this, which is very different in Tassus. In the past, we have always gone to the dump and grabbed construction waste and recycled it and used it. I myself built a 12 by 24 foot greenhouse with those materials. Now we're not allowed to do that anymore. And in fact, the rules dictate that we have to landfill this directly, which is it means that our landfill is going to fill up more quickly and it contributes to greenhouse gases. And I just wanted to raise that again because the irony is not lost on me. Here we're moving in one direction as a group, but yet in Tassus we're not allowed to reuse this waste. And I'd certainly like to hear a response regarding that.
CAO.
Yeah, I just think it's really this is we need to put the programs in place to achieve what we did in the past, but in a way that protects the health and safety of people. And yeah, I think that's really what it's about. We can do what we did in the past, but just not on the landfill face or at the landfill itself. And it's for a host of regulatory requirements and other issues that are factored in. But we will achieve just as what we did in the past with these programs and working with the various organizations that will support us.
Anything to add, Director Davis?
Well, I'm looking forward to that day of getting back to where we were.
Thank you. Director Cole Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you so much for this report. I was actually the person who put forward the resolution on April 8th, and the speed with which you put this together was really fantastic. So thank you, Sarah. And I just wanted to, I'm looking forward to the presentation materials at the roundtable in June. And I think we've talked a little bit about salvaging, and Director Grieve talked about Nanaimo and the ability to get old growth lumber, which means salvage from buildings. And that's because of a demolition policy in the city of Nanaimo on heritage buildings. I think that points to it. There are multiple streams of solutions. You need an ecosystem of things, from solid waste to municipal policy to sometimes provincial policy to make this whole thing work. And I really appreciate the comprehensive way that we're approaching it. And just some economic factors. We've talked about some of the environmental factors. There's a lot of embodied carbon, obviously, in all this material. It'd be great to reuse it. But from a straight economic perspective, I think I read that BCIT researchers valued the deconstructible wood in single-attached homes in Metro Vancouver at $343 million a year of reusable wood, much of which is old growth, which, as we know, will never come again. So I think there are many, many things to recommend it. I know we've had a lot on our plates with organics and other things, but I look forward to this, us digging more deeply into it. There are a lot of great models. Nanaimo seems to be doing interesting things. So look forward to June, and thanks staff for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I got Director Hamir, Kerr, and Anderson. So Director Hamir.
Thank you, Chair. And I too actually was going to congratulate and thank Director Cole Hamilton for bringing this forward at the SWAT committee, and to staff for being able to respond with such a great report. So from the discussion that just happened with Director Cole Hamilton and with staff's responses, it sounds like to me that a few things that we may be missing here in our waste management there is an ecosystem, I think, around recovery of this type of waste. And a couple of things that we don't have that maybe other jurisdictions have, just based on the conversation, are certain policies, as Director Cole Hamilton alluded to, that require certain types of demolition waste to be repurposed and funneled out of the waste cycle. And I'm really interested in kind of digging into this, and I know a lot of our energy has been going into the organic side of things to reduce organics going into our landfill. And I think that's probably why we haven't really seen a lot of movement on this, because we have been as a board very focused on organics. But now that that's underway, I think the board has maybe some appetite to look at this other quite major section that is filling up the landfill that doesn't necessarily have to. So policy is, I would love to see maybe a little bit more in-depth policies from other regions that have successfully been able to divert this type of waste from the landfill. And actually, shouldn't call it waste. These are resources. The other thing is, Sarah mentioned some partners, community partners that are maybe in place in the Strathcona Regional District that we're missing in the Comox Valley. So pulling in or attracting some more of those partners, be it nonprofits or be it for-profits, I think now is certainly a great time, seeing as how expensive construction lumber is. So I just want to put a vote forward, or just a recommendation forward, that we do look at trying to bring this community, this ecosystem together, be it calling our partners together and encouraging more social enterprise in this area. So I know it's it might seem to be a new project, but just judging by the amount of hands up and how many comments we've been having, I think there's a lot of appetite around the board for us to really divert, or at least concentrate some resources from staff on this file. So just want to add my name to that list of supporters.
Great, thank you very much. Director Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. I just wanted to make some comments on the conversation. I'm a long time rebuilder, restore addict. I've used materials for 40 years. But the reality is, as much as it seems like a great idea, especially, for outbuildings, greenhouses, in house construction, or most construction, it's just not feasible, even with a higher price. You've got a lot of the material, especially in the North Island here. We don't have those heritage buildings that we talk about in Victoria and Nanaimo, Vancouver, New Westminster. They're very few. The majority of the houses that get ripped down are ripped downs for a reason. And that I think is a reality. Certainly a small level recycling on a lot of them is appropriate, but to think that this is going to change volumes all that much, I think is, it's not going to happen. It doesn't make economic sense, and there isn't going to be demand. I'm at the Restore multiple times a week, and the very small amount of used wood waste that goes through the Campbell River, anyways, I don't go to the Comox Valley one, is minimal, because they don't accept it and they don't want it. So what I'm thinking is, we have at our Comox Valley site gas collection for the gas that's coming off the organics as they decompose, and we're going to be collecting and selling or using that for a lot of this wood waste. To me, it's an asset in terms of its long-term value in gas production, rather than building houses with. So it's not valueless as much as it takes up airspace. In the long term, it can produce an asset for us. So, and as long as it's done properly. So that's what, I'm totally in favor of you reusing everything. As my wife can tell you, things don't leave this property, they only come onto the property. But it, in the North Island, I don't think I'm always looking for old growth materials. They're few and far between. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kerr. And Director Anderson.
Thank you. I certainly support this effort 100% unconditionally, and I'm grateful to staff for it. I did want to say, though, on the heels of what Director Davis said, and this might not be a very useful comment, but I find myself increasingly sort of disengaging from the work brought forward because it is so urban centered. And I feel like the small rural communities are just so left out of a lot of what's happening with the solid waste service. Now we have an excellent transfer station here, don't get me wrong. Jesse and others do a remarkable job of keeping it really excellent. But we've been talking about organics for as long as I've been here, which is too long, and this and other things. And when they come forward, they're from a very urban perspective. So I'm not going to belabor the matter, but I really echo Director Davis's comments and would like us to find ways of continually incorporating a rural voice at this board, because I'm just starting to pull away because it's been so many years trying to get even a pamphlet out to the community about what we accept, etc. So I don't know if it's a staffing issue, whether we need to put more resources to it or have some kind of rural liaisons when it comes to these kinds of matters. But I feel kind of forgotten about a lot. So thanks for the effort and hope it serves us well.
Thank you. Director Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to suggest too that maybe our education program could have some kind of information site so that people could share information if they're thinking about changing their floor color or something and they're taking out flooring, that they could post it to a free pickup and somebody will come and get it, and it doesn't have to go through our landfill whatsoever. I got my floor on my upper floor of my house. My sister was changing the color. She wanted to change the color of her kitchen, and she was just going to dispose of all this beautiful flooring. And I said, well, I'll have it. And I went and got it and put it down in my house, and it looks wonderful. It's just having the opportunity to get the information, similar to what Director Davis was saying. If there's materials available, rather than having to go to the landfill, if there was some kind of information line where people could just go direct to the source and pick it up, that would save us a lot of money and a lot of headaches about what to do with all this stuff. So I would be in favor of our education program sponsoring some kind of, construction material exchange or pickup.
Thank you. And Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Chair. Again, thanks to Will Cole Hamilton for bringing it forward to the SWAT committee. We had a fair bit of discussion on it. One of the things that rather than waiting for provincial opportunities at the local level, we should also be looking when we deconstruct any municipal assets or any of our local government assets, that's a good place to start. There was also an invite to the Unbuilders Heritage Lumber to appear as a delegation at a future meeting, and I took that to be a future meeting of SWAT. But I would like clarification, maybe staff board, do you see this as something that SWAT should be dealing with?
Yep, Mr. Chair and directors, we are preparing for the roundtable, and this is going to be a topic of the roundtable. So the discussion today and your interest is helping us to inform us as to who the best presenters will be for that and what the discussion will be. So that's the next item, or next time this will be discussed amongst the board. And certainly the group that you were referring to will be one of the potential candidates if they're available.
Okay, yeah, my main question was, do you want SWAT to working on this?
That's the direction of the board, but certainly that can be a discussion item for your roundtable as to if there is continued work to be done by the policymakers. What form is it, through the board or through their SWAT or otherwise? So all good topics for discussion in June.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Cornfield. And Director Adams.
Just briefly, with some of the comments about sort of the essential recycling of construction material, just perhaps if we work with some of the agencies that are doing just a terrific job, like the Habitat for Humanity Restore, that is a place to drop off, support a great cause, and recycle building materials. But also there's a tremendous amount of, particularly with COVID, Facebook and web pages for buy and sell, where building materials are readily available. And perhaps if we sort of had a little section on our waste management website where people could know where to go for those that aren't already aware of what those sites are. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any further questions on the report. So saying that, I'll call question on receipt. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 6, Comox Strathcona Waste Management
Move
report.
receipt.
Seconder.
Second, Colburn.
Thank you. And I'll go to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The directors were available to answer any of your questions if you have questions on any of the items in the management report.
Thank you. And I've got Director Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at item 8 around the carbon credits, I think there was a report suggested for this meeting. Just wondering an updated timeline on that, or if you need different board direction to go in some new direction, if the Couch and Energy Alternatives is not providing an option for us.
CEO.
Thank you very much for the question. We were to provide a report this month, but I'll just look to Vivian Shaw, who will be the author of that, to give you any heads up as to what to expect at the next meeting.
Thank you, Russell. I was totally planning on bringing this forward in April, but I have not had success in getting the details of this from the Couch and Energy Alternative Society at this time. So I'm looking to still advance this for the next board meeting, but the details was not available in its fulsome form to be able to actually formulate a report for this meeting. So I apologize for that.
I wasn't meaning in any way to give anybody heck for being a meeting late. I'm just wondering if there's any further support or direction needed from this board to advance our interests.
Yeah, not at this time, but we'll see what follows in the report that we present to you next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Arbor.
Thanks, and I was actually going to speak on the same matter as Director Anderson. If it looks, I mean, we are sitting on a board resolution to proceed with this particular outfit, but if there are difficulties with that outfit, I think our service is going to be purchasing carbon credits for a very long time, and the board has also expressed interest in looking at internal solutions. I've done some reflection since, and I wonder if we start hitting some hurdles there. You know, there's it's tough on public lands, but we have Mosaic, we have different partners that we could look at potentially that could also help us match with other watershed management protection and efforts. So I am just indicating that if there's trouble on the horizon with this outfit, or if we can't reach what we're trying to do, I'll be voicing that opinion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? See, now I got one, I believe it was item 3 on the bin removals for the Golden River Transfer Station. I just want to say thanks to staff working with our office to come to the solution. Everybody's very appreciative of it. So we look forward to our new hours at the transfer station and the bins removed in the next couple of weeks, I guess it is. So thank you, staff. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call receipt on management report. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, I'll call carried. No bylaws, no business, no demon, no media questions.
Move termination.
You're going to adjourn into in-camera.
Second.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. We're going to closed.